the details, whether this statement is false or wrong, and that's a pat on the back. One, on the method of a struggle. I think we acted in...
I think you jumped the gun a little bit there. I asked, what is the status?
Now, the status...
Where do you stand at the moment?
Where we stand at the moment is that we are making a response to this statement on Tuesday.
Is the boycott over?
No, it's not over. That's why today we are not in Parliament.
You returned yesterday to listen, to receive the statement?
We had demanded a report from government. It will be uncouth for us, for government to say, I have the report, and you are not there to receive it. So we had to go back and receive the report. And our going back was specifically to receive the report. And had the Speaker not adjourned Parliament, we were supposed to get out of that Parliament again.
After receiving the report?
After receiving the report.
What was the demand going into this boycott?
No, the demand going into the report...
The boycott?
The boycott were the following. Forget about the issues that are raised here, the 7. A specific one, we demanded an accountability of all the cases that the missing persons. We demanded an apology from the state to end this impunity. We demanded to bring to book all the officers that are culpable. We demanded that government makes a commitment not to do the same acts again. And then later on, there were other emerging issues that we added on. We added on other issues of the Baralo, the Muslim clerics. We added on the issue of the fishermen, where we wanted the government to commit itself. And when you read through this report, some of those issues have not been tackled. And therefore, we are going to make a fresh demand that the issue of Baralo be tackled, fishermen be tackled, the issue of Muslim
I said the issue of fishermen talked about in that statement.
It was talked about in very thin lines. So, on Tuesday, the leader of the opposition, the Right Honorable Matthias Mpuga, will be making a wrong and a specific line by line, comma by comma response to this statement. And for what you've read, we'll put it to shame.
So what would this suggest that the boycott is over? You attended the receiving of the report?
Yes.
Yesterday. You will be in Parliament to
respond.
To respond.
Yes. And after that response, we are going to raise specific demands from government. Because you see, I don't want to go into the details of this report. But he's a lawyer, okay? And I'm not a lawyer. We are now having terms of unwitnessed disappearances. To list you that you disappeared, government cannot account for you because your disappearance, you and him are lawyers. I want you to press unwitnessed disappearances. The government in this report, for example, if I were to go specific, let me go to speak on 2 issues. Senteza Frank, that died in, if you read the report, that was murdered at Chibuye, noted here. First of all, they confess that behind the minibus, there was a UPDF truck. And our count is that it's this UPDF truck that knocked Senteza. Now, in this report, they confess that true, there was a UPDF truck behind, but they go ahead to say that no post-mortem was done. But they conclude, I want to give you, I just want to give you a few inconsistencies. But they go ahead, one, that his body was taken to Mulago. No post-mortem report was done. Yesterday, I asked the Minister of Internal Affairs, General Tafire, on CBS, why he did not even go for exhuming the body to conduct the post-mortem report. And they are basing now on their conclusion to say that Sentenza fell off a van and fatally died. I'm just giving you an example. And I'll take you through the Kibarama story as it is. I'll take you through.
I'll come back to you into the details in a moment.
So in terms of strategy of where we are standing, we until on Tuesday, when we respond, our response will come not only a response to a statement, but a response to also our next course of action.
Thank you. Let me move quickly to the Deputy Attorney General and ask a similar question. From where you sit, what is the status of the standoff or the stalemate over plenary between the opposition and the government?
Thank you very much, our host, for this evening. I apologize, I came in a little late. I got stuck in traffic. Now, asking me about the status of the standoff, one, it is a right of anyone who disagrees with the procedure of Parliament to walk out. So it is their right. The rules permit it, except that the law is silent on how long one can keep out. If I disagree, I can walk out, but the issue is for how long. Now that is theirs to determine as a party, as a team. If they are dissatisfied, they can keep away. But Parliament continues. So I do not see any standoff because the work of Parliament is such that you're expected to talk, to discuss, and in so doing you agree and disagree. And that's why they say those who disagree can walk away. And for some reason, they can come back once they are satisfied by the goings on within the House. Now, they set terms which we have met as government. They asked for accountability, for a statement. The Minister of Internal Affairs made that statement. Ideally, I would have expected them to have stayed in the House yesterday, so to have been in the House today, but they did not. I do understand that they sought time to rebut, to make a response, which they are going to do, I think, on Tuesday. So it's then that we shall see what happens next. But to the best of my knowledge, there should be no more standoff because the government has responded to their queries.
Honorable Deputy Attorney General, did it have to take this for government to account for its own citizens?
What do you mean?
That the opposition is out of Parliament for a month before a statement is issued.
Incidentally, our host will tell you that yesterday is not the first time that the government has had to respond to that very matter. We've held several meetings with my colleague Mwanga Chivumbi as a team in Parliament to discuss these very allegations. They've been brought back again and again, over and over. But you see, your question is, did it have to take this long?
No, did it have to take a boycott? And would the boycott have to run for a whole month before it's responded to adequately?
Let me start by saying this. Human rights are for us all, and they should affect us all. We should all be concerned where human rights are concerned. But the problem comes where you mix human rights with politics. Every time you mix human rights with politics, your intentions are questionable. And you form two sides, those who will believe you with your intentions and those who will be cautious about what your intentions are. Now, our colleagues made these allegations, not once, not twice, and they have made it on several occasions on the floor of Parliament. The efforts government has made to investigate these allegations have hit a rock. We did not get the necessary or the requisite information in most of those, relating to most of those allegations that would have helped us come back on time. That report tells you the police followed the allegations. They went to the several locations of the people who are alleged to have been abducted, their homes and whatnot, and the people there refused to cooperate. The alleged people who would have helped us, who would have helped government give information and help the investigation, refused to cooperate with police until they were approached by what they thought was an NGO. So when the investigators camouflaged as NGO, they were able to get information. So it means you have made allegations against the government. You've put a rope around the government's neck. Government is under obligation to investigate. The investigative arm of government has gone to do that which you want it to do. But the people are being uncooperative.
Are they just being uncooperative because they allege, the allegation is that government, the same government is responsible for the disappearances of the same people? So if you're believed to be the perpetrator, how do you expect the victim to cooperate with you?
Incidentally, if you read that report, it will tell you that at some point, every time they approached these people would get back to members of this party to consult on whether they should cooperate or not. And they were told not to cooperate. So meaning that there was someone, I don't want to call it an invisible hand, but someone deliberately pulling the strings, determining the pace at which this matter should move. Human rights are for us all, and we are all affected. Let me tell you, when someone disappears, his family is affected. When I came in here, although I arrived late, we were discussing the victims of terrorism. But also human rights abuse has victims, not just those people who have disappeared, who are alleged to have disappeared, but their families, their what. So the people in government are also human beings. When they set out to investigate this matter, they know that they should do it. They are under obligation to do it as government officials, but they are also human beings. They are affected by human rights. But when you tell the people who would be giving a government the information to help them get to the root of the matter, you tell them not to cooperate. Then you can go to the media and use that to hit government and show it in bad light. It means you are using this for political gain.
We'll come to the detail of that in a moment. Seems to be wanting to step in there. If government is the accused, isn't the suspicion or the fear justifiable from the alleged victims?
You are both a journalist and a lawyer. What does the laws of Uganda say? Or the laws of the world? When you accuse the government of Uganda, are you saying it ceases to have authority to investigate the matter you are raising? It continues to have authority. Now, if for some reason you doubt the credibility of its processes and possible outcome, then in our laws, you have safeguards, you have remedy. You can actually ask for a coroner to be appointed. If NUP guys say the government of Uganda, the police don't trust, then they can actually apply for an appointment, an inquest for a coroner to be appointed. Under our laws, the coroner is assumed in the law and in fact to be above being compromised by the daily maneuvering of a government, because it works like a court of law, or even beyond. You are the lawyers, you know. So I disagree with you in that respect. But let us go back to the beginning. You remember when this matter was first raised, the minister who was responsible then was the Honorable J.J. Odongo. At that time, our colleagues said that the minister's response, which was not once, there were many responses, were shallow. And basing on their judgment of the response to be shallow, they have continued to put the same demands. At no one time, to the best of my recollection, has government said, we won't listen to you. In fact, what provoked their walkout that time, when General David Muhoozi, the Minister of Internal Affairs, the Minister of State for Internal Affairs, was presenting, that was when they walked out. It is not that the minister had refused to, had snubbed. The minister was actually, they walked out on the minister when he was presenting. On the same matter. Now you have asked, did it need to take 30 days? Or let us even say, the last 2.5 years, it didn't need to take, but if you are playing political games, you use that as a strategy so that you keep these accusations, false or true, in the media to be a current, so that hopefully you are able to soil the government. And I think from where I stand, from the officers, the institutions of government I interact with, I think they are partially succeeding. They want to keep this matter a political issue and election issue until 2026, so that 2026, the issue will be a government which is worse than Amin, which was worse than Obote, which is worse than any other government that have been around, so that perhaps the elections are around human rights issues. And I personally don't begrudge them. If they want to make that the election issue, we shall meet in the field at that time. So I think there is an intent so that they keep refusing to accept that the explanations are accurate, are sufficient, are genuine, even where there are shortfalls. Where do I base myself? Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, when he spoke here today, and the other time when we were with him here, I think 2 weeks ago or 3, he actually said that they have been adding new issues. Because you remember when he said, not just these 7 issues, we have now added the Muslim clerics. We have added the Balalo. We have added the fishermen. Tomorrow, I'm sure he's going to ask about PDM. He's going to add another thing. So the nature of the tricks, the strategy, is that you keep raising new issues so that the matter doesn't come to a conclusion. To give you political relevance, to give you mileage. Again, I don't begrudge them. If that is the strategy, it should be the executive's side now.
The fundamental questions being raised.
Yes.
And these questions are on alleged disappearances.
But this is what I'm saying.
Yes.
That if the government comes and says, you remember when this matter started, they said over 1,400 people had disappeared. Now you ask yourself, how come they're now talking about 18? Did the government answer the other 1,386 or not? Or 382 or not? 2, yes, at that time, you remember, they made an allegation, a wide allegation, and I think they believe people will believe them, that the November riots, over 200 people died. You can go and check on the many talk shows we have had here with them. Honorable Semujo, Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, Honorable Segona, and others, and the NUP Secretary General. They have been saying over 250 people were killed during that riot. Now, in their own statement, they're saying 56. The government, they initially said 54. The government has said now they're 56 by yesterday's statement, 56. Some of whom died as a result of gunshot wounds, and others, what General David Muhoozi, and he's a lawyer, as you know, is very calculated with his words. He's a military intelligence officer, so he sticks to the facts, which he says incidental to, as in the case of the accident, the motor accident, as in the case of people who could have been hit by stray bullets and things like those. Now, if the boycotters refuse to accept the finding of government, again, that is their right. Now, the facts are on the table.
Thank you.
It should be for the public now to examine who is telling the truth, who is genuine. I think that's where we are. But if they choose to keep away, that again is also their right. We shall see whether the politics of in Parliament will actually stop, or the politics in the country will stop.
Tabaro, you're a lawyer. Let me come to you. Situations where government is a perpetrator of abuse of human rights are not uncommon. The accusation against the government of Uganda by the opposition is that, number one, the government of Uganda perpetrated the killings November 18th and 19th, 2020. It has been perpetrating abductions and disappearances of their supporters, and it is the same government going to do an investigation. And government says the people, the victims, the alleged victims, have been uncooperative. Is that totally unexpected?
From the outset.
And should government be trusted?
From the outset, I'd like to set this clearly. Issues to do with fundamental human rights are sacrosanct, and as such, call for bipartisanship.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being, any one of us is a potential victim or a potential of being at the receiving end of transgressions of either the state or state actors. And I say this because there's a background to all this. There are some very, very senior ex-security chiefs with advanced degrees in law. When they were at the helm of these organizations, they liked to speak tough, talking tough. When their turn came to be at the receiving end of the excesses and transgressions, they started raising the very things that we're talking against, fundamental human rights and what have you. Lawyers with advanced degrees.
Isn't that how governments renew themselves or survive? Different actors at different moments?
Exactly.
Speaking tough,
so, yes.
And then changing language?
Changing language when they're on the receiving end. And I'd also like to, I'm going to avoid mentioning names for very simple reasons.
Don't you think they are also doing politics? Some of them?
And I'm coming to that. Unfortunately, I don't want to be dragged into politics. I'm a lawyer in practice. I'm a businessman too. I'm a meat exporter.
Why are you hiding your head like an ostrich?
I'm not hiding my head in an ostrich.
You do the Kalangwe at another time.
So, yeah.
let's discuss developments in Parliament. And the human rights
I'll come to
yes.
that.
Yeah.
Now, I've been to court, by the way. I've taken some of these state actors to court. One of them was the head of a security organization. And he had a detention center at an island on Lake Victoria. I took him on to court and got orders to that effect. You were already the Deputy Attorney General, and I remember making a specific complaint, which was forwarded to the appointing authority. And in 60 days, he had lost his position. A detention center where he was using inmates as for forced labor on his, I think, sugarcane or palm oil. Private estate on I've also taken other.
And that fits within human rights abuse, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've detained people. Now, I'm emphasizing this to show that any one of us, leave the politics aside, put the politics away, whether they're within their strategy to make it ever so alive, that is up to them. That's what they've chosen. But I'm saying issues of fundamental human rights are sacrosanct, and any one of us can be a victim. There's a very senior lawyer who was head of subject commercial transactions at LDC. He was picked up by that very security chief I'm talking about, who was operating a detention center, and took him to a safe house. Reason for doing so, because he witnessed an agreement, sale of land, which in his opinion, the security chief thought was fraudulent. A lawyer. And that lawyer was no other than a partner of the then Minister for Defense. So you can imagine at that level, a person being subject of human rights abuses. Now, we are talking about helpless people. Those whose voices...
Just let me come in with a statement that the minister, who's a lawyer, read to Parliament and to the nation yesterday.
Yes.
In the unlikely event, I want to underline the word unlikely event, that infraction by individual agents of government, whether in the scope of the employment or outside the scope of their employment, or even where private citizens are involved in alleged abuses, the matter can only be addressed in specific terms and not in a casual and generalized way.
Much obliged.
The minister says,
yes,
in the unlikely event. What you're saying is that actually unlikely, it is likely that this can happen.
Actually, the statement was signed by General Kahindo Tafiti. General Mohozi only read it to Parliament. So, to the extent, I think the person who takes ownership of the statement is the one who appended the signature. Human rights abuses, the world over, are subject to independent investigations. Now, you have persons here, government, particularly on the floor of Parliament, which is very okay for a leader of the opposition to bring it to the floor of Parliament and make it an issue of national importance for determination by Parliament. But as a lawyer from my vantage position, we have robust processes for redress of human rights abuses in this country. He's mentioned appointment of a coroner or an inquest where circumstances concerning a person's death are not very clear. Torture, the Torture Act, the Anti-Torture Act, actually no longer, it just not only places liability on the government, but also the person, the individual committing the acts of torture. In fact, torture is even a crime of international jurisdiction. You can be tried for torture anywhere. Charles Taylor's son is serving 145 years in a US jail for having committed torture, acts of torture in his country. So
he could only be prosecuted and
he had run into exile.
Yes.
He had run into exile.
And his father was no longer in power.
Father was no longer in power.
Yes.
So now,
does that make a difference?
Well, I'm bringing to your attention the remedies and areas of redress. That they cannot just be confined to the politics.
I'm afraid, Edgar, you're missing the context.
And what is the context that you're talking about?
The context is that you have a government in power.
Yes.
That is the one also responsible for.
Exactly, and we go back to that statement. General Kahindo Tafiti makes reference to a nascent democracy. And he gave a little bit of history on how we transitioned from the movement, no party, to a pluralistic society, multipartism. Now, a nascent democracy, by the very nature of the adjective nascent, it's young, it's immature, and attempts at deepening are likely to produce birth prangs of democracy, as we are seeing. Now, for us to make it more vibrant, one, we must engage the institutions, the independent institutions outside of the politics, the judiciary, and hopefully also the police. The Human Rights Commission should also, in circumstances like this, be proactive and take what would you call investigative steps.
They have done so.
The question of their independence has come up, and many of their statements, quite frankly, from a practitioner's point of view, have been lacking. Their hearings are not open. Yeah, their hearings are not open.
They used to be.
They used to be. Under Kagwa, they used to be. And who's Sekaja, Margaret Sekaja. And they used to have a cause list. And persons, the hearings.
I remember I was investigations officer.
No,
there.
you were at Uganda.
Gentlemen, we need to take a break. We need to take a break.
I was an investigations officer.
Yes, and
the
the hearings were robust then. They were robust then.
Even the investigations.
Can we pick up?
Even the investigations were robust.
Can we pick up? Can you pick up your submission? Your submission after a very short commercial break.
Okay.
In the statement, it says democracies evolve. Uganda is one of them. We have made tremendous, remarkable strides from the individual merit of the movement system to where we are at the moment. It's a very interestingly worded statement. We'll be picking bits and pieces along the way as we discuss. Let's take a break and continue with this conversation in a bit.
Frontline. Uganda, are you ready for a reggae-filled night sipping on some red wine? You better be, because UB40 featuring Ali Campbell is here. Tickets available on townticketing.com.
Are you having headache, sore throat, muscle pain, toothache, or fever? Then use Curamo Plus. Curamo Plus is strong on pain and gentle on stomach. It's available in all drug shops countrywide. It's not recommended for children under the age of 12 years. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Attention! Many of you have been buying backroom sheets. That has to stop. Engineer Kajubi Tuesday. Classing session. No school fees. Kati wali wabagamba. Nti all mabati are the same. Mbalaba. It seems you want a retake in building your home. Some of you go to make road call on your roof, only to find that karate yasomi. Eyo mupeyo. And those of you taking shortcuts, eyo nyondo kumutwe wekaba. Now, let me tell you, superior quality, terimba. Nera, ask for Uganda but because nothing beats superior quality.
Choose from Uganda Bati's wide range of superior quality roof sheets and make your home the pride of the neighborhood.
Wow, this is what I call a home.
Uganda Bati, nothing beats superior quality.
Are you an investor, or have you always wanted to invest in Uganda? The State House Investor Protection Unit is here to review and collaboratively coordinate to resolve issues that affect you. As a protection unit, we promise to uphold the highest standards of honesty, transparency, vigilance, and collaborate with stakeholders to empower you. Find us at Plot 51B, Lumumba Avenue, Nakasero, Kampala, Uganda, or call us on 0414-250-284 or 0326 100 630. You can also WhatsApp on 0764 001244 or email info@statehouseinvest.go.ug with any queries or inquiries.
Dreamline Furniture brings you the best comfort to your home. Come and buy international world-class furniture from Dreamline Furniture, ranging from sofa sets, dining tables, king-size beds, TV stands, among others. Right from Turkey to Kampala. Save that air ticket money and get quality and durability at Dreamline Furniture. Located opposite Shell Ginger Road, Kampala. Ample parking spaces available behind the Winton Road. Dreamline Furniture. Comfort at its best.
Mujje mulabe music, mujje munyumirwe music, mujje mulabe abantu abayimba okuva ku mwoyo. Mujje bangi, mujje mwenna. Ku bakazi abangi mu nsi n'olonda mu wange, nze njimaze emikwano ginkeese, yegwe gwe ndowooza wenneebaka mwebe ndoota mu kikadde. Bwe nabeera ku Serena, mujje mulabe.
For reservations, call 0774 982 040. Dress code Chicade. Sponsored by MTN. Where luxury meets tranquility. Frontline.
You're still watching the Frontline on NBS TV with Deputy Attorney General Jackson Kafuzi, the Executive Director at the Uganda Media Center, and frontliner of Pondo, lawyer Edgar Tabaro, and the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, who's Member of Parliament for Butambala and a member of the National Unity Platform. We have I have a lot of messages, and many people from our last show, the debate about how many messages do you take, how many do you leave out. But the number of messages that we're receiving for the show are increasing every day, so we'll have difficulty reading all of them and continuing the discussion in here, but also denying you the voice as a viewer is a difficult decision for us to make. We'll try to see how much balance we can achieve. Someone is asking, is the minister's statement out in public domain? Please share. Of course, it is out in the public domain. The minister read it out on the floor of Parliament yesterday, and that Parliament was covered live, including by NBS TV here. So, Louis Okello, you can access that statement. It's available. Someone says, someone called Julius from Kingam in Kabarole District is watching the show and says, my interest was about Kibalama. The Prime Minister came and said, we have him, and the Minister is saying, we don't know him. Now, who is right? And another thing is that when they change themselves to be like from NGOs, it's when they got information. What's that information? That they had to disguise as NGO people to get information from the victims. Another viewer, Arthur Andoineho, says, as if opposition is using the issue of human rights to maintain their political space, which indeed they have achieved, and not until opposition revises and reassesses the factor that the issue of human rights concerns both government and opposition, not one against the other, we shall regard the actions of the opposition as merely political. That's Arthur Andoineho. I have a message from, it's a fairly long message. William Mubiru in Nabingo. The photo below is of the late Kizito Mihigo, the gospel singer who was brutally murdered, and his killer said the poor man of God committed suicide inside a police cell.
By hanging on.
Whoever says that Uganda today has got the worst record of human rights abuse on the continent is very wrong. The problem some Ugandans is to forget very quickly. Lastly, murder is the premeditated killing of a human being by another. It is therefore very wrong for Mr. Mwanga Chivumbi and many other opposition fellows to say that people who died or accidentally killed by stray bullets during the riot on 18th and 19th of November 2020, or those who were knocked by vehicles, were murdered. That's from Nabingo somewhere. Ken Mutenyo says,
understand English differently.
On democracy, Afrobarometer released research findings about the state of democracy in Uganda today. 81% of Ugandans prefer democracy, but only 44% of them are satisfied with the democracy being supplied. The fight for human rights in Uganda has now been politicized, driven mainly by those interested in becoming leader of opposition and a platform for re-election in 2026. Nobody condones human rights abuses, but some of these people, of these MPs, must stop dancing on graves of the victims. We must talk and find solutions, because the day we stop talking is the day we will start fighting. We must be talking about redress, remedies available to the victims, and debating whether the abuses happened or not. That's Ken Mutenyo. James Nkojo Kano in Purongo says opposition should stop playing double standards. Human rights applies to all. The NUP people opted to beat Majambere to tatters, almost to death, and they failed to produce the perpetrators when they knew those who beat Majambere during the burial of the late Naduli's son. I have another message from BMK Gift, who says, I find it sad and unfortunate when different government institutions deliberately decide to give different accounts in relation to the missing 18. Whereas General Muhoozi's statement partly alleges that the relatives of the missing people refused to cooperate with the police investigators, Miss Mariam Fawzat Wangadia's Uganda Human Rights Commission never alleged that some of those people never existed, while others willingly closed the files. Which is which? Anyway, all in all, what remains factual is that some Ugandans were picked up by security agents before, during, and after the 2021 elections. Some of them were released and returned back to their families, while others have never returned back 2 years or so later. That's BMK Gift in Nansana. I also take a message from...
Can I read a message from somebody adversely mentioned by Edgar?
Go ahead.
This is Honorable Mariam Wangadia. The chairperson of the Human Rights Commission has used my phone and has sent a message to say, it is not true as alleged by Edgar that our hearings are not open. They are always and without exception open. This is the Honorable Mariam Wangadia, the chairperson of Uganda Human Rights Commission.
Justice Mariam Wangadia.
Yes.
She's not a justice,
Just chairperson
of the Uganda Human Rights Commission.
As stand guided.
So, yes.
In the past, they used to give us hearing cause lists and, actually they used to post them in the New Vision at the time.
It costs money, but the issue you had raised falsely, the issue you raised falsely was that the hearing of Uganda Human Rights Commission is now closed.
Yes.
They are closed, and she's saying they are without exception.
Probably, Edgar, you are less busy then, so you could. Kindly ask for me, that there are people with police case references. Where has police reached with those investigations since those people reported disappearance of their people in 2019-2021? It's a question from Amos. Let's come back to the discussion here. Edgar, I promised that I would give you an opportunity to conclude your thought, and then I'll come to Mwanga Chivombe.
Now, nascent democracies, you're likely to have the kind of thing that we are witnessing. And for us to deepen the democracy, one, we have to engage with the institutions and the mechanisms for redress. Death as a cause of action is a remedy that is available. The families of the 56 can sue government for damages. It has a background to it. In 1966, you recall the events at Nankolabie, when the government...
64.
No, Nankolabie. 64, yeah, 64. When
remember, I was alive then.
No. You were alive, but you were not following events. And the source of the skirmishes is...
Can you come back to what we're discussing?
Yes,
you're stretching us back.
You can't. I'm giving the origin, the background to death as a cause of action. So all these matters that are being put on the floor of Parliament, unfortunately, are taking only political course, undertone. But I'm also saying, under the law, we have remedies to redress these excesses that are being indicated. There's an aspect that came out in the annexures. I think BLC, the one that gives the SOPs on use of lethal force. Now, it would be important. I don't know. I used to be the shadow minister for internal affairs in the previous. Yeah, but I think we need to investigate, to conduct an inquiry. Parliament needs to conduct an inquiry as to, one, preparedness in terms of skills and tools of our security agencies in handling riotous situations.
Okay.
Because some of these excesses may be as a result of poor skills and poor training.
Maybe as a result.
Yes.
What is the other possibility?
The other possibility, it could, impunity. But that we can only establish if we make an inquiry into that. As for now, there's an accusation and a counter.
We're going to have Honorable Mwanga Chivombe respond. Specifically, the report by the minister says, in regard to the November 2020 death,
yes.
This is the language he uses. 56 people lost their lives, including those by gunshot wounds, and others, of course, by other means.
By other means.
46 of those were male adults, 3 male juveniles. 48 of the victims were from Kampala metropolitan area, so Kampala, Mukono, Wakiso, other areas. 2 were from Jinja, 2 from Luwero, 1 from Rakai, 1 from Luengo, 1 from Chinoni, 1 from Butambala, and 1 from Mpiji.
And none from Luka district where the arrest was carried out?
Yes, that is part of the statement from the minister. You've listened to the responses from the Deputy Attorney General to Edgar. I'd like to give you time to respond.
Yeah, one, I find it a little bit contradictory. One, let's speak about trust. Government inherently run on the trust of the people. When there is no trust between those who govern and those who are governed, then you have a huge national problem. Because if you are squeezed, the first resort is for you to run to your government. But now, if it's your government that is abusing you, that is arresting you, then there is no trust. So you are not going to go, the same people cannot go to the people. You don't need to even instigate them from a political headquarters, but please don't respond. There is collapse of trust.
I would want to imagine that there is no presumption that that trust would be 100%, or that the distrust would be 100%.
You are talking about in the relative terms.
Yes.
In relative terms, governments must enjoy, government institutions must enjoy the trust of the people. And there should be the resort where people resort to. So that is one. And I find it scandalous that government was to admit that it had lost the trust of the people. That should concern a serious government agency. That under investigation, these circumstances, people can't even, did people refuse to cooperate? They cooperated to an NGO. So that means they did not trust this government.
They cooperated with what they believed was an
what
NGO.
they believed was an NGO. So did the people refuse to cooperate? No. The people did not trust government. That is all. They did not refuse. No, because the argument they were advancing in the report is that the people refused to cooperate. No, they did not. They cooperated to an NGO. So they did not trust the government agencies. And the Minister of Government should have been very concerned for lack and collapse of trust. Second issue. People are trying to divorce politics from these issues. It's very, very extremely hard and ridiculous. Because all these matters came up because there was a presidential contest. So they are product and grandchildren of politics. So you cannot stand on national TV and begin to spin that these people are being political. So first and foremost, these are political issues. And broadly, how do we elect our leaders? If I stand to be a president, what must I prepare for? Who has stood for president not to be accused of rape, threatened with murder, detained, or go out on bail? Even if Tabaro today, you seriously became a serious contender for president, we will discover that you have raped. We will discover that you have done many horrible things.
In Toro, we don't.
No, I'm telling you, if you dare today become, if you were allowed the candidate.
Maybe because we haven't aspired.
That's when we will know how terrible you are, how, how do we contest for elections? For me, these are big issues. The second issue is that, one, OO says there were 1,000 and about 1,400. True, 1,400. Let's cascade them one. Some were released. Afterwards, unlawful detention. Is that lawful? Unlawful, they were detained in ungazetted places. They were released not after days or hours as stipulated in the Constitution. You are a lawyer. The Constitution set a bar.
48 hours.
48 hours. Were these people detained beyond what the Constitution provides? The answer is yes. Was it for hours? Was it for days? For months. and they were detained and were released in their hundreds. Others, civilians, were on trial in a court martial. While this is very interesting. The other day, last week, I saw a terrorist being tried in
the so-called civil court.
In the so-called civil court. A terrorist suspect being tried in a civil court by this very government. But someone who was arrested in a riot is in a court martial. How can a government that we speak to and calls itself a democratic government operate like that? How can we have esteemed lawyers presiding over a judicial system, a system that behaves that way? And you want people to trust you. So you are talking about, so what are we arguing about is impunity. Now, we have cascaded those that were released after unlawful arrest, unlawful denial, in abuse of our constitution. Even Tabaro, the man of arrest is addressed in the penal code. If you are to arrest me, you know what the penal code says.
It's a criminal procedure.
It's a criminal
procedure code, not the penal code.
Whatever. But even if you are to arrest me, there is a way I should be arrested, because you are talking about the dignity of citizens. You are talking about now.
Mr. Mongosi, I just need to add just a supplement on what you're saying. Sorry for interrupting you.
Yes.
If the security organizations, there's an act that was passed in 1987, enacted in 1987, that regulates the manner in which security agencies may participate in an arrest of a person. The power resides with the police.
Yes. But see, we can all speak to, even today, in Uganda, there are safe houses. Even today, there are Ugandans being arrested and detained for more than 48 hours. It's this impunity that this whole stand is about. We must put a full stop to this impunity. Now, who could do it? The question is, if they were citizens, you would have had more arrests. If there were citizens that had made this standoff, okay, going to the street to demonstrate, to picket, they would have been arrested and detained, and they would have been. So the legislators chose conveniently to make this stand because we are the firewall. I want to really go after this argument. Let me first finish my case, and then say we are now talking about people who have disappeared. I have senior lawyers here. He was my lawyer before, in the Constitutional Court. He was my counsel. Tabaro, you were senior counsel. Disappearance of people is a crime against humanity, and triable by the International Criminal Court. Now, who is on oath before the government can uplift my social welfare? It has to ensure my life, protection of my life and property. Are we talking about people who have disappeared? Now, on record, government says these 18, they can't account. But then, every record indicates that at one time, these 18s were in the hands of government. The Prime Minister, in the case of Chibarama, is on record saying, we have Chibarama. So this government you are talking about, that's why now you are giving us a way out. Should we go to Parliament and demand an inquest? Maybe on Tuesday. What's the space? Are we on the right track? Yes, we should have done first things first. First of all, if we had demanded for inquest first, we would have said, members of Parliament, first use your platform to demand for this accountability, for political accountability. I think we've been clear, consistent, and step by step. As they say, process by process. We are getting where we want to get this government to be. It's an abuse, it's murdering citizens, it's detaining them with impunity, it's abusing human rights. There's disregard to the rule of law and abuse of the Constitution.
Opondo Pondo accuses you, as members of the opposition, of deliberately trying to keep this issue alive, knowing that there is
No.
Yes.
The word accusation is the wrong one. Because I'm saying they're entitled to it, so that I'm simply telling my listeners that they're exploiting it. I'm not making an accusation. It is their right to do so. And I even I put a rider. I said the onus is on the side of government to make sure that this stratagem of the Kivumbis does not succeed.
And invited them to the field.
So it's an
but let me ask you, if you are in our shoes, your supporters disappeared, and government although consistent, allows a response, do you have an option to keep quiet?
No,
I'm asking. Do you have an option
can I
to
respond?
keep quiet? And if you choose to consistently speak out for the people who have disappeared, are you being political?
First of all, if I were in your shoes, my supporters would not be riotous. They would not be belligerent to law enforcement, including getting power saws to cut down electricity poles, to cut down CCTV poles, like that fellow who was shot actually in Mukono. He was cutting down a CCTV pole.
In a riot?
In a riot, during the riot. True, the ones in Weyogere, they came with, they drove a bulldozer, they brought excavator, and brought boulders, and dumped huge boulders on the junction of Nambole and going to Chikajo. My supporters would not do that. My supporters would
in a democracy. In a democracy.
Is that allowed in a democracy?
No, in a democracy, where do you draw the line between riot and demonstration?
Unfortunately, apparently, you haven't read the response of General Kahindo Tafire to Parliament yesterday. They attach annexures, including writings as far back as 2017 from the Commander-in-Chief, the President of Uganda, how each kind of member of the public, including rioters, should be handled. In that writing, the President is saying, for example, if a rioter listens to the command of the police, why even punch him with a blow? Why use a gun to hit him? Why torture him if you have subdued? If he has listened to the command of the police, you can only use force to a rioter who is countering police, law enforcement with force. That's the one you should. So please go back and read.
I have read. I have read the report.
This is what I'm saying, because you're asking me, where do we make the distinction, the boundary? And I'm saying, for example, if the police came here to arrest me and I submit, I don't expect that police, if they are professional, to beat me. However, if I carry this bottle and I throw it at them, or I remove my shoe, or I pick this table and I throw at the police, I can expect the worst, or I should expect the worst. Now, my brother Kivumba and his group think that they, as Ugandans, under the human rights, you should be able to do anything to the police officers, and you should not expect dire consequences. I wish you luck if you think that that's how the real world operates. Better tell your followers, better tell your supporters that while you have the right to protest, you don't have a right to assault a law enforcement officer, especially the one who's armed.
Okay.
Because under the law, the law enforcement is actually protected if you can demonstrate that you used a force which is commensurate to what you are throwing at them. And I just want to wind up with what General Mohozi said, because you had quoted him out of context, because he said that in the likely event that a law enforcement officer,
in the unlikely
event, a law enforcement officer abuses a right.
Because it's not the norm.
It is not the norm. The case you are referring to, and many of the cases we are referring to, are not the norm. Because ask yourself, I want to believe that NUP is a national party, and that day they were campaigning, they were having supporters elsewhere. Ask yourself, why is it that those who were shot and subsequently died, the majority of cases are in specific places. Why are they not in Tororo? Why were they not in Arua? Why are they not in Igulu? And so on, and so on, and so forth. So there is a politics which the Mwanga Kivumbis are trying to build, that you can behave the way you want, and because you can run to the media, you can run to the international community, because they have not only run to Parliament, they have gone to ICC, as you know. They have gone to American government, they have gone to the Senate, they have gone to senators in America, and so on. So, if that's what they're doing because they are playing politics, there's the law of Uganda. There's the law of Uganda. And time is going to come when you will answer to the laws of Uganda. No matter how you play to the guard of the international world, time is going to come. We are not just bragging. Building a democracy, building a country is not a picnic.
It's not talking the talk.
It's not a picnic. If you think, why has Mwanga Kivumbwi not been shot? Isn't he protesting? But he's protesting within the limits allowed by the law. That's why you haven't got the same treatment. Go tomorrow and pick a stone and start throwing, and you see whether just by virtue of being a member of Parliament, the bullets which is controlling rioters will spare you.
You see,
just a quick question. Should security enforcement use live ammunition to deal with lethal power?
Otherwise, why does Parliament approve the budget to buy live ammunition? Why? Why? And it has not given UPDF, which is ordinarily supposed to deal with our external enemies. The Parliament, in its wisdom, has given the police the law.
He was shadow minister for internal affairs and defense.
And again, the president's letter in the annex here is actually detailing when, if you are a trained force, when can you apply lethal force? The case I was referring to, that somebody who's belligerent, surely will get. In fact, the president says
when you talk of belligerent,
should be proportionate
that's an act of war. It becomes an act of war, not just a riot.
Exactly. Yeah. If you throw a stone
the
like that in those Nup guys who staged the roadblock, and they were robbing people. Two, the ones who had hammers and were hitting policewomen. What would you expect? In fact, to me, our police was highly restrained.
Mwanga Kivumbwi needs to respond.
But you see, when you are going to lose an argument, you try to make a long verbal tirade.
But you made a longer one.
Listen,
my brother.
Let me give you a short, precise answer. If those were criminal, they were acts of a criminal nature.
Of belligerence, it says.
Yes, the law speaks to it and how you can address it. Arrest them, detain them, okay, in a gazetted place, within 48 hours, arraign them in the courts of law.
Prosecute them.
Prosecute them. No. Listen, listen, you've been speaking.
The reason they are remedy is that the framers of the Constitution anticipated that there would be a likelihood of abuse.
Listen,
the minister makes a response to that.
Gentlemen,
there have been recruitment of judicial officers.
Gentlemen, allow
the reason for remedy is that the framers of the law anticipated a likelihood of abuse.
Allow Mwanga Kivumbwi to respond.
That's why I've said I will give you this time a short.
He's outnumbered on the show, so allow him to respond. Let's give him.
The other day they outnumbered.
I'll give you a short and precise answer.
Why are you crying for him?
The Constitution, all the laws and the acts we have in this country speaks to the facts how we can deal with the law breakers. Arrest them. The man of arrest is known. Even if you are to use force, use reasonable force that is proportionate to the challenge you confront. After arrest, detain them in gazetted places, prosecute them within 48 hours. Does the law, which you want people to observe, give you a right to detain people in ungazetted places? detain them for more than 48 hours. Before detaining them, make them disappear for years. Prosecute them in military courts. People who have acted. So you are speaking about, and then you are making also wrong, a very big case, is that the directives of the president were ignored by the law enforcement officers. If the president, let me make a case. If the president issued those directives, laid out the benchmarks on how security forces, how comes we have impunity? Is the president in charge? Do we have a government that speaks to the authority of the president? So, in your long verbal attempt to defend the indefensible, just know you are embarrassing the president. You are demonstrating that your government is abusing the constitution. You are lawbreakers. You are murderers. You have crimes against humanity.
Let's have the Attorney General come in here.
Is the basket empty?
What did he call it?
Is the basket?
What?
Let's
have the Attorney General come in on this. And I want to put part of the issues that he's raising, but I want to put specific questions. How do you, as government, explain the contradictions over an individual called Chibalama? The Prime Minister went on the floor of Parliament and told the nation that government had Chibalama, knew where he was, explained the circumstances of his arrest. Then, following statements, can't account for Chibalama. Where is Chibalama?
And why did they
I'm made to understand that the two statements did not refer to the same Chibalama. The Prime Minister was talking in respect of a different Chibalama. Chibalama, the founder of NUP. She was speaking in respect of that person.
Which one?
Chibalama, the founder of NUP.
And it's also
if you are interested, you can seek more information on that.
But don't take us for fools.
Just a moment.
No.
First allow him. Let him respond. I'll give you time.
I cannot accept.
To the best of my knowledge.
No. For heaven's sake.
The Prime Minister has
I respect
stated.
You, but don't take that line, sir.
No, I'm speaking.
No, I respect you as a person, as an individual, and I request you.
And your former counsel.
And my former counsel. You are above that. If that can't be you,
Mr.
Don't go that far.
Please, can you allow the Attorney General to respond?
Allow me.
I think you're being very unfair to him.
To do what?
You're being very unfair to the person of Jackson Kafuzi.
Let's allow the
I'm
Attorney
giving you
General
the
to respond.
position
Please,
of the Prime Minister. Okay? She says she was speaking in respect of a different Chibalama, the founder of NUP.
Was Chibalama, at the time she gave a statement, being looked for?
I'm made to understand Chibalama, the founder of NUP, had been arrested at some point, detained, and probably charged or released.
He was at the Bombo Military Hospital.
So to the best of my knowledge, she was speaking in respect of that, and that is her position. That's what she has asserted. Now, Chibalama, what's the other name?
John somebody?
Henry? Or
Chibalama who? Give us
Chibalama referred to by NUP. The records of police indicate that the police approached his home, the relatives, they refused to cooperate. When they went as an NGO, they got information that he left home going to defend a thesis. He was a master's student, and he was not seen or heard of since then. So they do actually that's the one they call unwitnessed, because his vehicle was found with the laptop, iPad,
His phone.
and his books and his phone. So they do not know, no one can pinpoint to say the police took him or so and so took him home and his vehicle was found parked somewhere. So that's what they called unwitnessed disappearance. Okay? Now, the records indicate that that particular Chibalama had gone out of the country and returned, I think, is it 2014 or thereabout.
The last time.
The last time, yes, he had used his passport. So ideally, they have not seen the records of his passport showing exit. Okay? But they cannot tell because they do not know who took him. That's what they referred to as unwitnessed disappearance.
Let me read from the statement.
But also, Charles.
Yes.
Let me say this. If someone disappears, it could be either goons have done it, or for some suspicious reasons it has happened. Yes, I know that government is under obligation to protect all Ugandans, all people in Uganda. But if they do not have eyes on everyone, as and when this happens, what do you do?
But just, I was just going to put
what do you do? You're speaking for
even if you call for an inquest, the finding will be that we cannot find him.
Charles.
And
because they will get all the witnesses if they are there. I do not want to go beyond because there might be an inquest, by the way,
but
at
Charles,
some point.
But Charles,
okay?
But Charles.
Just allow the Attorney General to conclude his
So
thought,
the finding will be, just like the family says, he left going to Makerere to defend his thesis. And they will find out. They can investigate if there are fingerprints in the car, who else touched the car.
Between his home, let me read from the statement of the minister.
Yes.
Some cases where the leader of opposition attributed alleged disappearance to security operatives had been reported earlier by the relatives of those people as unwitnessed disappearances. The case of Kasumba George, alleged to have disappeared on 19th January 2021. Kisembo Godfrey, 12th February 2021. Kibalama John Bosco, 3rd June 2019, fall in this category. In the case of Kibalama John Bosco, his vehicle was reportedly found abandoned along the road, and all the belongings that he had at the time were intact in the vehicle, including a mobile phone, laptop, and an iPad. Now, the question is, if a person disappears between his home and going to defend a thesis in Makerere since June 2019 to November 2023, and government doesn't have an answer, and he's been in the news for all that time, period of time, what do you tell the relatives who are watching us now?
You see, the law talks about presumption of death in certain cases. Let's say if you want to administer the estate of a person who has not been seen or heard, missing persons. Yeah. There's a particular period. Is it 3 years?
3 years.
Presumed to be dead. Presumed to have died after 3 years.
So 2019 June to November 2023. Is that 3 years?
You see, I'm not the one to make the declaration that this person is presumed to be dead. It's court, and court must look at the facts. Okay? Court must look at the facts.
So the background to that, in the 1970s, there were many disappearances of people without trace. So government enacted a decree, or Estates of Missing Persons Act, that relatives or
the person who has
disappeared can take out letters of registration. And
they can be allowed to administer.
Yes. Let me give a minute to Ofonopono, and then we'll take a break.
That could be one. But also, what is prevalent today in Uganda, if we live here? I have a young man who was working with Amproc.
Procurement company.
Yes. He disappeared like 5 years ago. He was a friend of mine, was a friend of other people, including one MP today in that parliament. We haven't seen him.
Barara City.
Yes. He is an NRM person. 2, I have another case, a very famous case, probably, you know, Dr. Wilbro Dokungu. My friend is from Tororo. No. I'm saying this because when he was brought from Pandroma, listen, when he was brought from Pandroma by General Kaihura,
The GRC were together.
listen, he was among the people hit by UPDF in Pandroma, among the PRA in 2021.
2021? No.
2001. I had worked with him in Gulu that time. I went and saw Nobo Mayombo, who was then Chief of Military Intelligence. He removed him from Mbuya Military Hospital, took him to Mulago. His doctor colleagues, he later told me how he escaped from Uganda. We stayed for 3 years without knowing where he was. Many of the children you hear are in the Middle East for labor, especially the young women will not tell their parents when they are leaving and going to seek better opportunities abroad. Why? Because usually either they are suffering bad marriage problems and they are running away from their husbands, they are running away from family members,
debts,
particularly
loans,
and with the with no ill intent, particularly when they are Muslim young girls,
okay,
where they are being compelled. Listen to this story, where they are being compelled to marry older men who have several other wives. They prefer to leave Uganda. They can use Maraba. Well, they will use Panya routes, no passport stamp, go up to Nairobi. When they're in Nairobi, they board and go wherever they go. Some of these cases, my gut feeling is, if our police was to conduct, especially Interpol, to do due diligence, effective investigation, some of them could be. And I suspect that's why General David Mohoz, the lawyer he is, he was, in his statement, he actually makes inference to possibility that some of these people could be falling in the categories of people who are seeking asylum and don't want to be known where they are.
Hold it for a moment. I'm afraid. Hold it. Kindly hold it for a moment. I'll give you time to make a contribution. I also hope that Ofono Pondo is alive to the preamble to the Constitution and why disappearances would cause discomfort and anxiety among Ugandans.
That's why the onus is on the relative. The onus, while government has a responsibility to secure you, the onus is on you, the relative, or the person who is saying this person has disappeared, to go to the police, register, police will make search, and eventually the matter will end up in the court.
Thank you very much.
For a declaration.
Let's see if the Prime Minister was speaking about a different Chibalama. We have the clip.
For example, if you can read, Chibalama John Bosco, abducted on 3rd of June 2019 from Kanyanya, Gayaza Road. Now, how do you trace for Chibalama? But we are fortunate that Chibalama was traced. He was arrested recently in October in a place called Kakiri, and he's one of those that is claimed to have killed police officers in Chiboga, Wakiso, and other places. So there are those who have even declared and accepted that they have been, they are attached to the other rebel group, Coalition for Change. Remember? So such people really cannot be arrested like you are chasing a chicken thief. There are those that you have to use.
When they are shot, they try to resist or not.
Take a break after. Let's take a break. We'll come back.
NBS Frontline. Uganda, are you ready for a reggae-filled night sipping on some red wine? You better be, because UB40 featuring Ali Campbell is here. Tickets available on tanticketing.com.
Reason why I love you, why you like my day, you are my son. Reason why I love you too, cannot give enough.
Serve your family the bigger feast this Christmas with StarTimes Upgrade to Kongere promotion. Nova customers on satellite decoder simply pay 20,000 shillings special bouquet monthly subscription to enjoy smart bouquet for free. Enjoy variety of entertainment including Hello Mr. Right on Makula Chika, Kazanya Kukazanyo on Makula, animations and cartoons on Boeing, series on TLC and Star Life. So make this the unforgettable holiday. More content, happier family.
Upgrade your living space with comfort and style. The end of the year sale is here at Nina Interiors, and you don't want to miss out on the amazing deals we have for you. From comfy sofas to sleek dining tables, we've got everything you need to create a space that truly reflects your unique style. Get the best quality and make huge savings this season. Visit our showrooms at House 17, Ginger Road, and Primroses Mall in Luboa to get the best discount for the perfect furniture for your home. Nina Interiors.
From foundations to homes to skyscrapers, sketches to superhighways, come meet the people raising the bar in construction at the first ever Uganda Construction and Infrastructure Forum and Exhibition. Genuine contractors, architects, engineers, surveyors, financiers, suppliers, manufacturers, and policy makers under one umbrella for all your construction needs. For 4 days of thought-provoking discussions, exhibitions, and networking. Don't miss the enigmatic Professor P.L. Olumumba, our keynote speaker, from the 14th to the 17th of December at Kololo Independence Grounds. Visit www.unapsec.co.ug for sponsorship and exhibitions. Call Miss Helen or Mr. Mike Sarunkuma on 0774 992 514.
Long before Europeans arrived in Africa, great kingdoms and empires ruled over many parts of the continent. Uganda comprised several kingdoms, some of which wielded enormous political clout until they were abolished by President Milton Obote.
Even though in law they were outlawed, in the spirits and in the minds and the hearts of the people, those institutions, those cultures, those beliefs remained.
In 1993, President Yoweri Museveni, author of Thrones and Thorns, Owechitiwa Apollo Makuya, brings you a compelling account of the resurgence of traditional rule in Uganda in a groundbreaking documentary coming soon.
Frontline.
You're still watching the Frontline on NBS TV. Someone here says, Amos says, why don't you give OO the program alone? OO has given a wrong statement that government buys guns to shoot its own people. Really? He should apologize. Amos is in Kazo district.
His head must be checked, his brain, his level of understanding should be checked. I'm simply saying, if the parliament did not envisage that the police will use guns, including in a little way, they wouldn't budget for it.
Okay. We have Robert Wango Rwakasenyi.
But was he wrong? But was he wrong? Were they wrong? What are guns for? What are guns for?
Robert Wango Rwakasenyi from Fort Portal says, I would like to advise the opposition this time to use legislation, the key priority issues, and also take on service delivery in their constituencies, like roads and fulfilled pledges and by the president in the next 2 years. He's happy with the discussion on the submissions on human rights. Wango Rwakasenyi.
And deliver those ones. If he has senior 6.
There is someone else who says...
it's equivalent.
Oh, it's equivalent to go and pick a nomination.
Someone says the program is fair when all frontliners are present despite their inclinations. Now it is Givumbi against the 3. Okay. That's what he says. Edgar, let me start with you.
Okay, much obliged.
Edgar, they will smoke you out.
And the Attorney General. What exactly is the Prime Minister saying? You watch the clip just before you took a break.
Yes.
What exactly? I mean, I don't know. Is there a contradiction? Is there a misrepresentation? What is it?
You know, in law, there's what we call a truthful witness. A truthful witness, you can even have a witness who is not giving a factual situation but is truthful. As in, he believes, the belief that the person she is referring to is the Chivalama in question. And yet the perception is different. For instance,
with that amount of detail? With the amount of detail with which she speaks?
Yes.
Yes.
She speaks in very specific terms.
Yes.
Was the Chivalama she was referring to actually picked up in Kakiri?
She talks of Chivoga. There are certain details she gives.
Yeah, and she talks of Chivoga, Kachiri area.
Can I ask production to
my
play
brother,
that
my
clip?
OB,
yes.
I've urged you and
the people in
my
studio,
senior
in
counsel
production, please,
to really raise above that.
Yes.
Leave those issues to
Let's have
Nabanja.
it play again. Let's have it play again.
Abducted on 3rd of June 2019 from Kanyanya, Gayaza Road. Now, how do you trace for Chibarama? But we are fortunate that Chibarama was traced. He was arrested recently in October in a place called Kakiri, and he's one of those that is claimed to have killed police officers in Chivoga, Wakiso, and other places. So there are those who have even declared.
I see one alignment. The statement by the minister talks of Chivalama John Bosco believed to have disappeared on the 3rd of June 2019. The Prime Minister talks about John Bosco Chivalama, 3rd June 2019.
Yes.
He says arrested October.
Yes.
No.
He talks of arrested.
Arrested. He was arrested
in
October.
And disappeared on 3rd June 2019, but fortunately, he was traced and arrested in October.
So I urge my good friends to really abandon that line. Two of you.
No. This is what she has said, and she can be on record for that. She will go on record when she's available. I'm telling you, because I've spoken to her. Okay? She says she was referring to Chivalama, the founder of NUP. I'm saying this
and he had killed
on
people
TV.
in Chivoga.
No, she said the allegation. She says he was alleged.
She's the one that claims.
Yes, claims. Those are allegations.
The import of that is that alleged.
Yes, the allegation is subject to investigation.
My good brothers, the two of you, you belong to my generation. And you are dear to me. I'm not blackmailing them. They should leave that to Nabanja.
But Charles,
that's not
is it out of the normal to mix facts? Is it out of the normal?
Or have facts changed?
No. Is it out of the normal? Even for the Prime Minister, even for a president, to mix facts, she could have been briefed about Chibalama. And it comes to the media on the floor of Parliament and mixes facts, which we in journalism would call misspeaking to issues. And is this the first instance, the first case, where the Prime Minister, Robin Nabanja, misspeaks? Is it the first case? So I think we shouldn't make a big issue out of it. Now that matters are on the table. she can come and speak on oath which Chibalama was she referring to. And that will be cleared. So I don't think we should make a big issue. There's misspeaking always.
Yes. You are the lawyer. I'm imagining Edgar Tabaro doing cross-examination.
Even my brother here,
of the Prime
even
Minister.
my brother Kivumbi here.
In an inquest.
Sometimes, quite often, he actually misspeaks, especially with a lot of energy. However, now that this one appears to play to his side, he would want to hold Nabanja onto this misspeaking.
Is this a question of misspeaking?
But I think,
it's a change of facts.
I'm sorry to interject.
Yes,
I'm sorry to come in.
I'll indulge you.
You see, she says she misspoke. Okay? Now, for us, you and I cannot sit here and say it was deliberate or not. She's the only person who can do that. Because she's able to distinguish, to tell us the person she was referring to and the one she did not mean to refer to. For us here, we can only engage in semantics.
As a journalist, Mr. Attorney General,
we can only guess.
As a journalist, Mr. Attorney General, I hold the Prime Minister to her statement until she proves that she was speaking about something else. And when you point, Ofono Pondo was a practitioner in journalism for many years. These contradictions tell the story that official spokespeople will not tell.
Yeah. But just when we began this show, this young man sent me photographs of this show. And I tweeted and I said, I am here with the Kwezi Tabaro. And his younger brother said, no, you must be with the other one who's well-fed. And I said, my apologies, actually I'm with the one from Kijura, very well-fed. Now, I made a mistake.
Kwezi and I are from the same area. Kwezi.
Yes. I know Kwezi. I made a mistake to refer to this one as Kwezi, and yet I debate with this guy every other day. So I am saying,
it happens.
Yeah.
A mistake of fact.
Yes. And by the way, in the statement of Honorable General Tafiri, the one to Parliament, he actually refers to it, says they have since spoken to the Prime Minister, and she has clarified in this statement.
You can read
the annexes. They have actually said that they have since spoken to the Prime Minister. Which Chibalama was she referring to when she spoke?
But Charles, there are some critical issues that came out of the response by General Tafiri and that was read by General Mohoz on the floor of Parliament, and making an explanation. The government has made attempts to recruit more judicial officers, more magistrates, so that they produce suspects in court within the prescribed period by the Constitution. But there's something that is lacking. And as a citizen, as a concerned citizen, as a legal practitioner, the issue of conducting arrests outside of the law, arrests that are being conducted by security organizations other than the police, I think, Mr. Honorable Mwanga Chivubi, this is something that we should take as a bipartisan position, that it is not what we set out ourselves.
Tabaro.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Charles. That charge, we are guilty as a government. And we have given explanation. You can refuse, you can accept. In Uganda today, would you really say, maybe we were too ambitious with the constitutional provisions. We should obey it as written. But what are the circumstances? Do we have the requisite number of police officers to do the arrest as prescribed? Or you can make do with other means? The president again addresses this in the next years, put there. Why is the military involved in arresting, in detaining people, and in specific circumstances? However,
then for God's sake, inform the families.
No, however,
the families
yeah, that's
of
true.
The persons who have been arrested.
However,
allow them access to counsel.
However, even when the Constitution has been violated,
you are very
unwillingly, are there mechanisms for redress, for remedy? If I have been held beyond 48 hours, yes, the constitutional provision has been broken. If I'm not produced in the court, if I've been taken to a court martial instead of a civilian court, are there remedies available? Not that we should break the law
The big question is,
willfully
when,
in the hope that
at
somebody
what
will seek
point do you
redress.
detect-
But the framers, I made this statement. I said the framers of the Constitution and the framers of the law made provisions for redress. I think with the mind that it is possible in the future that when they are implementing this law, there is a likelihood of breaches by law enforcement.
Mr. Fono Pondo,
I'm afraid we need to.
Mr. Fono Pondo, in this day and age, we cannot be conducting arrests outside those provisions. In particular, as far as they relate to informing immediate family members
and access to counsel.
Yes, quite frankly, we should, and nobody should stand before the public and defend that.
We're continuing this discussion on Afro
The
Mobile, and
SOPs.
Kelly Wanda, I got your message. Thank you very much. I'll put the question to Mwanga Chivumbi. I have a few other messages. This is the minister's comments on alleged political prisoners in custody.